Good morning. Welcome into First Take. Thank you so much for being with us. It's Wednesday, so of course Christopher Mad Dog Russo here with us. Great to have you, sir. Stephen A. down there in Miami, getting set for the game, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But gentlemen, somewhere much more important to start right now, and that would be with the Warriors' Steve Kerr delivering an impassioned plea for gun control after a Texas school shooting before Game 4 of the West Finals, referring to the mass shooting that occurred at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Kerr's plea was one of many swift reactions across the sports world Tuesday to the news of an 18-year-old gunman opening fire at an elementary school in Texas, killing at least 19 children and 2 adults, as cited by a spokesman for the Texas Department of Public Safety. The suspect, a student at Uvalde High School who entered the elementary school with a handgun and possibly a rifle, is also dead. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said it's hard for Steve Kerr to focus on a game right now, rightfully so.
In the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California. And now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of the, I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, you know. Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go play a basketball game. You realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check. 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
Steve Kerr, of course, lost his father to gun violence. There was an outpouring of reaction across the sports world. LeBron James tweeted, "My thoughts and prayers goes out to the family of the loved ones lost, injured at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas." Like, when is enough enough? These are kids, and we are putting them in harm's way at school. Like, seriously, at school, where it's supposed to be the safest. Meanwhile, Celtics star Jason Tatum breaks my heart hearing this news. No parent should ever have to lose their child. Praying for the families of those kids and the teacher. This is devastating. Here's more reaction from Steph Curry and Natasha Cloud of the Washington Mystics.
It's kind of hard to, stay focused on going out and playing basketball and knowing, what happened, in this state. And I got kids, send them to school every day, drop them off. And you feel for the parents that are, going through what they're going through. I can't even imagine the pain. So for Coach to come up here and say what he said, and every word that he said was powerful, was meaningful.
This game doesn't matter. The 18 lives and the number is going up by the minute. The 18 lives that were lost today from senseless gun violence in Texas at an elementary school. We're talking about our kids not being safe to go to school. And our government is still not implementing sensible gun laws. This isn't about taking people's rights away from bearing arms. This is about putting sensible gun laws in so this doesn't happen again. Please check on your loved ones. If you see crazy online, please send it to someone, send it to the police, send it to anybody. But if our government's not going to do our job, then we got to do our job and come together as a community, because this is absolutely ridiculous at this point.
Stephen A., I tweeted a picture of the faces of those little children, and it's just devastating. This is the 212th mass shooting in 2022. It's been widely reported. We're 144 days in. 27th school shooting. You heard LeBron say school should be a sanctuary, places of worship. We had senior citizens in Buffalo going to the grocery store. It's a crisis, and it should be a bipartisan issue. This is about human life. And when did it become so cheap? And I know you're sick to your stomach as well.
Without question. And it's pretty difficult to talk about sports today. We'll do it anyway. It's part of our job, and we'll do that later on. It's very, very difficult. I was listening to Keyshawn Johnson talking about not wanting his kids to go to the mall by themselves. I relate to what he's saying because I have 2 daughters, and I don't allow them to go to the mall by themselves. And teenagers, I'm not letting that happen because of the crazy world that we're living in. And that's something to be brought up. There's no question about it. Your heart goes out to the family and the loved ones of these kids. And then to watch the news and to see a little 8-year-old boy here, a little 10-year-old boy there. They said most of the kids who were killed were 10 years and younger. Actually, all of them, along with the 2 adults. So we're talking about children. And Doggy, I know you can relate to this because I remember listening to your show years ago when the tragedy took place at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut. On that particular day, 28 people were killed. 2 more were injured. The shooter, Adam Lanza, if I remember correctly, he had murdered his mother prior to going to the elementary school and killing kids. And so this is not the first time we've seen this happen. We've seen shootings in Colorado. We've seen shootings in Florida. We've heard about all of these things. We've seen it. It's absolutely positively tragic. And I want to applaud the Steve Kerrs of the world, the Greg Popoviches of the world, the Steph Currys of the world, the LeBron James of the world, the Natasha Clouds of the world. And the list goes on and on of athletes and sports figures who want to bring attention to this issue. Let me crystallize it for us even more. It is important that we recognize that no one is engaging in hyperbole as they express themselves emotionally. When Steve Kerr calls out politicians, he's absolutely right. When Natasha Cloud calls out politicians, she's absolutely right. When we talk about the need for us to step up and step forward and do it ourselves, if Capitol Hill ain't going to do it, they're absolutely right, because the time has come to call out these politicians. We elected these officials to go up on Capitol Hill and get things done. They're not getting it done. They're more petulant than we are. They're more petulant with one another than children are, for crying out loud. And I'm not joking about this. The fact of the matter is that we have a situation where November 8th of 2022, November 8th of this year, is coming up. And I made sure to have these notes down because I want to bring this up to the American people right now. There's a total of 469 seats in the United States Congress, all right? 34 Senate seats, all 435 House seats are up for election in November of 2008. The only issue, and there's really no issue that I took with Steve Kerr, with what he said, because he was right on the money, I did not like the fact that he mentioned Mitch McConnell and stopped there. We have Democrats that take up 50 seats. We have 2 independents that caucus with the Democrats. That's 52 seats, essentially, in the Senate. We have a Democrat in the White House. We have Democrats in the House in the House of Congress as a majority. I believe it's like 221 to 8 with 6 seats available. Why can't you get stuff done? We hear that people are working on a bipartisan level, but somehow, some way, stuff still doesn't get done. It's really, really time to hold these politicians accountable, because the level of petulance that they engage in is what's stalling our level of productivity as it pertains to getting things done. If you, Doggy, are going to sit around, okay, you're an elected official, and, okay, we want to pass this bill for gun control, okay, but then you tried to slide something in there about infrastructure or whatever it is that has absolutely nothing to do with gun control. And somebody on the opposite side says we disagree with that, so we're not going to sign the bill. But then you go on national TV and misrepresent their positions by saying, hey, excuse me, they wouldn't vote for this bill. All of a sudden, you're lying to them. You create a divide. As a result, negotiations stall. Nobody wants to get anything done, and then ultimately nothing gets done. If you're going to sit in somebody's face and talk about them like trash the minute the cameras start rolling, how are you able to then go behind the scenes and get something done when your priority is saving face and looking good so you can maintain your seat in that elected office instead of actually going there to get things done? That is what politics in the nation's capital has regressed to. And so I close by saying That's where the problem really, really lies. They're not putting they're not the ones who actually shot and killed people. We understand that. But we also know there are laws in this land that could be implemented. There are laws in this land that could be enforced, that should be followed, that we have not put forth our level of due diligence necessary to make sure that we're living in a safe and civilized society. Mayhem continues to be put on display. And the leaders that we rely upon to do something about us have sold us out just so they can maintain office. So if I'm Steve Kerr or anyone else, what I say is don't name just one name and don't name just one side. It's every single one of them. They have sold out America because they don't get things done. It's that simple.
Well, let me say a couple things here right out of the gate. Number one, something is wrong with the United States of America when an 18-year-old kid on his birthday goes out there and buys 2 assault weapons, rifles. In May, this kid, 18 years old, can't have a drink in Texas. Would you allow your kid, if he came home at 18, hey, Mom, look what I got for my birthday, I bought 2 assault rifles? You go crazy. He didn't have that parental supervision. Nobody checked. Nobody did anything. So Kerr's 1,000% right. Secondly, all the folks who make a big deal, this is about mental illness. Well, how come this doesn't happen in Britain? I was in Ireland. There's no mental illness in Ireland? France, Spain, Germany, Italy. You don't see this happening in those countries because the gun availability is not there. You are not a 15-year-old kid at a boarding school in Britain who can walk into a gun shop and buy 330 magazines and 5 assault weapons. You can in the United States. And although Biden, the president, he says all he wants, do something. Obama did after Sandy Hook. He did everything he could. Nobody followed suit. And although I try to play it right down the middle, I vote both Republican and Democrat. I vote for the best man all the time. In the history of since 1980, vote for the best man. Bottom line is, in this particular situation, Kerr's right. It's about the Republicans in that Senate who are wrapped up with the NRA and all the gun lobbyists and everything else who are afraid. There's 310 million guns in America for 300 million people who are afraid that if they get tough here, that somehow they're going to get knocked out of office because their states love guns. Love guns. Do you think everybody brings up the Second Amendment. What do you think George Washington, Sam Adams, Jefferson, Ben Franklin, what do you think they're thinking about right now? You think they thought this? There was no police. There was no state militia back in 1780 when they did the state Second Amendment. It's not the same thing. This is totally different today. I mean, it's ridiculous. You're going to bring up the Second Amendment, well, I have my right to have guns, and you're going to bring up something that was passed in 1780 and say that applies to today? That is absolutely absurd. And the other thing, Abbott, the governor, and again, I play it right down the middle. Cruz, that senator. And how about the representative of that community that were in West San Antonio and West Texas? They all voted no on gun control deals in March. They voted no on it. And then Adam yesterday gives me this big deal about how we're heartbroken. Well, you had a chance to do something about it. You did nothing. And where are they going on Friday, half of them? To an NAR convention in Houston, Texas, for crying out loud. Houston, Texas. It's absolutely absurd. America, shape up, wake up, and do something. I don't care what it is. And yes, there are a million reasons why we have all these 18-year-old kids who feel disconnected and feel like they got to go out there and blow up a supermarket, a school, a movie theater in Colorado with armor on. They're disconnected. But I can't look at every computer. I can't look at every social media post. I can't look at every Instagram thing to see what these kids are thinking about. But what I can do, I can limit their ability to obtain weapons. That I can do. And I understand the gun companies in this country don't want that because they make a ton of money when they sell these assault weapons. So that company, that store, Dick's Sporting Goods, wherever it was in Texas, when they sold those 2 assault weapons to this kid a couple of weeks ago, you think they care? No, they don't. They don't care. They say they care, but they don't because they do nothing about it. And listen, I lived 20 minutes from Sandy Hook. I was there 5 days later. That is an absolute disgrace that in 9 years we have done nothing. Kurt's right. I got issues with Kurt with other issues. His China thing and everything, I could go on and on. But here he's 100% right. This does not happen in Europe, Japan, China. It does not have Israel. Name the country. It happens here. The United States of America. Because you politicians, in this case, most of them Republicans, and the president, go out there and do something. Let's go. It can't be that hard. You know, the other thing that I want to say, last thing, Washington Post had a great point today. One last thing.
No, go ahead.
You know who's going to get this solved? You actually need a Republican president. Because we're so politicized in this country that the Republicans do not want to agree anything to what a Democratic president says. So if you have a Republican president who is going to get that vote on the right, he does something, you can start to make a little movement here. And we almost did with the last president after Parkland, but he got sidetracked. What else is new? And he didn't do it. He got sidetracked. But this is getting to be much. We're starting off a sports show on this great network, and we're talking about a kid who got slaughtered, 18 people, and we're going to move on our merry way now. And we're going to show up at that gun lobby thing in Houston on Friday. You should be all ashamed of yourselves. All ashamed. And I vote right down the middle. Don't call me some leftist nutcase. I go both ways. Sorry.
Don't be sorry. That was so.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
Well said. These children deserve their lives. They deserve to follow their dreams. And you're right. 212 shootings, 27 in schools. And again, these places should be sanctuaries. Everything you said was so spot on. And honestly, Stephen, and I know you guys are grown men. It's unnerving. You almost feel scared to go anywhere at this point. Basic places.
Yeah, you do. You do. I'll say this. You do, but you have to. You have to move forward. You don't move on. You move forward. But in the end, I brought up the election for a reason. Guess what? If people are not going to get, whether you're Democrat or Republican, if you're not going to get things done to to prioritize the safety of this nation, you need to go. The fact is, you got an election coming up November 8th. Get all their behinds up out of there. All of them, if you have to. You can change. You can change some of this. The fact that they're not getting anything done is the most egregious part of it all to maintain their seats in power. Steve Kerr is absolutely positively on the money for that. They're not thinking about the American people on Capitol Hill. They're thinking about themselves. So we need to get people up there that's going to think about American citizens and not their seats
becomes more important than
in the nation's capital.
Yeah. What does it profit the man to gain the world if only to lose their soul? So we'll leave it there. We'll take a quick break. And again, just praying for all these victims of the 212 mass shootings and their families. This is First Take. We'll be right back.
Everyone knows to get wireless savings, you need to be on a family plan. Oh.
With Visible, I get unlimited data for as low as $25 a month. No family needed.
I guess I spoke too soon. Visible. Single line unlimited data as low as $25 a month.
Light beer shouldn't taste like water. Miller Lite has more taste and only 96 calories. It's Miller time.
You could only eat one thing the rest of your life, what would it be?
Easy. Buffet.
Pretty sure that's not one thing.
Barbecue buffet.
A buffet is the complete opposite of one.
Okay, a barbecue ribs buffet with brats and barbecue chicken on the side.
And I'm on a roll. Use only your mind. Place the order now.
Order up for Dustin.
I don't have any money. Whoa. What if somebody ordered pizza with their mind?
Actually, now there is a way to order pizza with your mind.
What?
With the new Domino's Mind Ordering app.
We always believed the welcoming spirit was a small town thing. Turns out, we were wrong. Wherever Jim Beam is welcome, you'll be welcome too.
Thanks for coming. Now, when it comes to a financial plan, this broker is your man. Let's open your binders to page 188.
Carl, are there different planning options in here?
Options?
Plans we can build on our own or with help from a financial consultant, like Schwab does.
Could we
Adjust our plan? Yeah, like if we buy a new house.
And our son just started working.
Do you offer a complimentary retirement plan for him?
As in free?
Just like Schwab.
Look forward to planning with Schwab.
The Warriors with a 3-0 lead in the series.
Do you want to pack for San Francisco or do you want to pack for Cancun?
Sustained Mavericks run right here.
Players we're not used to calling their names so far in this series stepping up.
They don't want to go home yet. Doncic drains another triple. Dallas Mavericks season not done yet. There will be a Game 5 in San Francisco.
miles from that tragic shooting, a game was played. The Mavs avoiding the sweep and are attempting to become the first team in NBA history to overcome a 3-0 deficit to win a series, a feat 146 others have failed to accomplish. Dallas took a step in that direction with a 119-109 win in Tuesday's Game 4 at the American Airlines Center. Luka keeping hope alive.
I still believe we can win, so swept or not swept, at the end, if you lose, you lose. So doesn't matter how many we win, but we have to go game by game. We're gonna believe till the end.
All right, Stephen A. We know you're all in on those Warriors. Was the Game 4 performance a bit concerning for you, sir, that they weren't able to complete the sweep?
It's all concerning for me because I don't view the Dallas Mavericks as that big of a threat. No disrespect to them. Luka's a star. We know that. His supporting cast really shows up usually when they're in Dallas, not so much on the road, although there have been aberrations like their Game 7 performance in Phoenix. The fact of the matter is it's really been about Luka and Jalen Brunson as it pertains to consistency. Nobody else has been able to be relied upon on a consistent basis, not to mention the fact that they're a bit soft on the interior. They have no rim protector. They have no shot blocker. And because of that, that puts them in a very vulnerable state. So whatever I see the Golden State Warriors do against them is of minimal importance to me. What I pay attention to is Golden State's ability to make shots. I know what marksmen they possess. And I'm looking at it from that perspective. And I'm saying, are you going to make shots? Because this is not the litmus test. The Dallas Mavericks are not the Boston Celtics, and they are not the Miami Heat defensively. Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics have athletes. They have individuals on the interior who are rim protectors. And as a result of that, they can make things very, very difficult for you, especially the Boston Celtics with a healthy Robert Williams and a healthy Al Horford. So I look at it from that standpoint, and that's what has me worried about the Warriors. When you're down by 55 to Memphis and you lose 2 games in a row to them, when you were supposed to close out the Dallas Mavericks, I don't mind that you lose. I mind the fact that you were down by 29 points. Those are the kind of things that concern me. And on the side, Doggy, last but not least, I feel compelled to mention this. Let me tell you what I disagree with Steve Kerr about. I would not have reinserted Steph Curry into that game last night, and ultimately Andrew Wiggins thereafter and Klay Thompson. Those reserves were in the game with about 10 minutes left. They were down about 29 points or so. Steve Kerr had basically brought the guys on the bench and essentially conceded, this is not the game that we're going to win. We're going to go back to Golden State and win Game 5. And Jordan Poole with Kuminga, with this kid Moore, I believe, Moody, I'm sorry. You had others in the game with him as well. They came off the bench and closed it to within 8 with just under 4 minutes left. I would have left those dudes in there. And I would have rode that wave. And I would have said, hey, now it's his discretion. He's one of the great coaches we've ever seen. Okay, it's all hindsight 2020. But I'm just telling you, for me, the way they were rolling and the difficulty the Dallas Mavericks were having in guarding them, I would have left those guys in that game. I'm just concerned about these huge deficits that they've had in the last 2 rounds of the playoffs, knowing what's waiting for them in the NBA Finals.
I agree with you 100% on bringing Kerr back in a game. I went to go look. You saw it. Curry. You saw it. I did not. These 29-point blowouts in these playoff games, that's a different topic. Can we have a halfway decent game? Please, can we have a ball game with the 5 minutes to go? It's 96-96. I mean, you all hang in there. I mean, my goodness gracious, and these games. The best game so far we've seen in this series was Game 2 when Dallas played very well, could have won, and Golden State pulled away in the fourth quarter. I understand your point. I wouldn't have put Curry back in the game either, but a quick dunk by Doncic. I looked at the play-by-play sheet. That's how I know. Off a Maverick timeout, quickly got that lead back to 10. So I don't know if that's that big a deal. You are 1,000% right, but I'm not going to make too big a deal about that. I also don't want to make too big a deal about Golden State losing. They haven't lost a home game yet in this postseason. They won't have home court against Miami, so they're going to have to win a road game there. But they didn't have home court against Memphis, and they figured out a way to win a game in Memphis. They are going to be very difficult to beat. I don't like getting killed by 29 points, but let's give Dallas some credit. You know, Doncic is a wonderful player. I think he's a top 3-4 player in the league. That's how good I think he is. And they made some shots. They shoot 1,000,000 threes. The ball went in last night. It did not go in in Game 1 and in Game 3. The ball went in last night. I'm not going to make too big a deal about it. I'd be shocked if Dallas won Game 5, and maybe they'd be competitive, but I'd be shocked. You know, Golden State's very good at home in these fourth quarters. Yeah. They come from behind a lot in these fourth quarters. They did it to knock out Memphis. They did it in Game 2 in this series. They did it a couple times against Denver. They are great at bouncing back because they got so much offense. The crowd's great and everything else. So I don't want to make too big a deal about it. Your point is 100% right. That is a bad look. You're down by 29 points. And I would have kept Kerr on the bench too. But I think in the big picture, all this is nice talk for us on Wednesday. By next Wednesday, they'll be in the final. You and I won't discuss it. They'll win Game 5. Give Dallas credit, but they'll win Game 5.
Yeah, well, I think you're wrong there. I think you're wrong there. I think we will discuss it because we're seeing vulnerabilities from them from a defensive standpoint. Their inability to stop the opposing offenses, their inability to make sure they avoid being down by 20 or 30 points. These are not things you can afford to do, say, if you end up going against the Boston Celtics, which I still believe will end up winning this series against Miami in 7 games. These are the kind of things that you got to watch out for. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, they're an offensive team, though, Stevie. If they score, they're going to win. You got to outscore Golden State. I mean, they have so much firepower. You got to outscore them. They're going to have home court against the Celtics. We can't love what we see with the Celtics. They're very erratic, too. Tatum has a great game, then he stinks. They're erratic, too, and I don't even know if they're going to get by this series. I think they're going to be okay. I know you're higher on them than I am, so I can't pick them because I can't be the same as you. But they'll be okay in that NBA final.
Stephen A., let me ask this. Do you think it would have been a bad look for Luka had he gotten swept?
No, I don't. Not in this particular series because he showed up. You know, I mean, the fact of the matter is that the one thing, when Dallas goes home, because I believe they will, nobody's going to look at Luka and what he didn't do because he's been spectacular in these playoffs. And to be as young as he is and as gifted as he is and to have the minimal amount of help that he has and still able to do what he's doing, the pressure's going to be on Nico Harrison, Mark Cuban, and Jason Kidd to get him the assistance that he needs to supplement what he brings to the table. That's going to be the mentality of the Dallas Mavericks and the Dallas Maverick fans everywhere. Nobody is questioning the greatness of Luka Doncic. All you're doing about Luka is looking at him and saying, okay, the time has arrived to take it to another level. Not your game, but your conditioning, so you're better defensively. That's what they're looking at with Luka Doncic. But as an offensive talent, there's no question about it. He's one of the top players in the league right now already, and he's sensational, and he shows up in big moments. He does not fold or wilt beneath the pressure, and that's what you look for before you classify guys as great.
100%. He's averaged 40 points a game in these elimination games, and here's what you need to know about Doncic. Yeah. First half against Phoenix in Game 7, all right, 27 points. Took the heart out of the Suns. Chris Paul, we'll have fun with JJ later. One of the all-time greats, 1 point. He's got nothing to prove. Nothing.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll leave it there. Still to come here on First Take. Tim Anderson responding to Donaldson for 1 game. The suspension and undisclosed fine stems from Donaldson's Jackie remarks to Tim Anderson of the White Sox during Saturday's game. MLB said the discipline also was warranted because what Donaldson said helped incite a benches-clearing brawl. Donaldson will be ineligible to play pending the results of his appeal. Now, Donaldson plans to appeal and explain the context that he was referring to when Anderson called himself Jackie Robinson in a 2019 interview. So, Stephen A., you said Anderson needs to respond to that sentiment on yesterday's show, and he finally did. Let's take a listen to that.
He did say that, and I told him, we don't have to talk again. I won't speak to you, you won't speak to me. If that's how you want to refer to me. And You know, so I know he knew exactly what he was doing because I already told him.
Has he or anyone from the Yankees reached out to you since then?
No. You know, but I'm not looking for no friendship, no relationship, or you know, from that behalf. You know, but I'm gonna continue to keep playing hard and keep being a great teammate and keep being the best version of myself I can be.
All right. Stephen A., you said after Anderson went in front of the microphone, you wanted to hear from Donaldson, his response, and now we just heard that. Did that suffice for you? How are you viewing him now?
Absolutely suffices. That's what I was waiting for. That's what I was employing Doug Glanville and everybody else to pay attention to. Doggy, just so you know what my position was, my initial response to the suspension that came down against Josh Donaldson, I was against it. And the reason that I was against it was because Josh Donaldson, after this whole brouhaha, really came about, Josh Donaldson did not issue a tweet or a statement, came right out in front of the reporters and said, let me give you the background involving me and Tim Anderson, and explain that based off of the Sports Illustrated article, he had been teasing and messing with Tim Anderson since 2019, and they seem to have a good relationship, and Tim was totally fine with it. Then he said, now, if something has changed in our relationship, I didn't know, but I had no knowledge whatsoever that this was remotely offensive. I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact words that he articulated, but that was pretty much about it. The point that I was making is he made that assertion. You can't just sit up there on a Sunday afternoon and have a problem with Josh Donaldson now when you didn't have a problem with him the 3 previous years like he said you did not, and then think that he should be suspended or he should be with Josh Donaldson. And it also incriminates Josh Donaldson because you knew that he didn't like that, but you still did that. That's why Aaron Boone spoke out against Josh Donaldson. It's why Aaron Judge spoke out against Josh Donaldson, because evidently they were aware of what Tim Anderson's feelings were and what Tony La Russa and others for the White Sox had expressed. So now that changes everything. My point about Major League Baseball is if it's just based on Josh Donaldson's interpretation and you're just going to deduce that calling him Jackie is inappropriate and uncalled for and disrespectful, right? That doesn't warrant a suspension. And that's where I'm coming from with it. But now that Tim Anderson has articulated and clarified everything, then that means, Josh Donaldson, you meant that in a way that you knew that Tim Anderson would be offended by. I still don't know if it warrants a suspension because it's not like he used the N-word or anything like that, okay? So baseball ingratiating itself into it like that, I'm not sure that's wise. I think that opens a Pandora's box. There are plenty of people that things that are disrespectful to them, things that are done to antagonize them, it happens, and that doesn't warrant a suspension. I don't know if this does either, but I will say Josh Donaldson looks very, very bad today based on what Tim Anderson explained, because Tim Anderson said, hey, I never liked it. He knew it offended me, and he still did it anyway. That is not good.
100%, Stevie. We have to get into an argument here because we're loving each other too much today. You were 1,000% correct. Donaldson's a clown. Let's call it like we see it. He gave Giolito a lot of grief a couple years ago with the sticky stuff. He killed Garrett Cole. He likes to get under people's skin. He was on the Twins. Why would a Twin and a White Sox be buddies? I buy what Anderson said. I don't think they were ever friendly. You made 100% right on the Judge who said something that night. It was disrespectful, which it was. Boone, who didn't want to say anything the first day because he doesn't want to bury his player. That's why I don't pay too much attention to what La Russa says, because he always protects his players. Boone didn't want to bury his player, but even the next day with the doubleheader on Sunday, he said, you know what, he shouldn't have gone there. I'm going to let MLB interpret the racial angle of this. I think they handled it properly. I think one game suffices. He's on COVID anyway. He can appeal. I think the one game sets the right tempo. I think MLB handled it properly. Here's the thing, most importantly. When you use Jackie Robinson's name, who is the linchpin of the sport and one of the most important figures we've had in the 20th century, if you use him in a disparaging way towards anybody else, another player, African-American player who Robinson inspired him, and he wants to inspire other young African-American players to play like Jackie did. When you use that in a negative way, you deserve a suspension.
Absolutely.
Jackie Robinson's name, Jack Robinson, no matter how you say it, should never be used in any negative connotation in the sport. So, and Donaldson, listen, should he have gotten 20 games? No. I'll let MLB or the Yankees interpret racial intent. I don't think probably it was, but he was looking to be a pain in the neck, and he knew he was going to be annoying. And I'm down on Donaldson. Well, I think the Yankees are down on Donaldson. They can't do anything about it. He's getting paid a fortune. But, I mean, listen, Donaldson's wrong, and he's a clown. Let's call it like we see it.
Let me say this. I can't call it like I see it in terms of that, Doggy, because I don't know. You know baseball. You cover these guys. You probably talk to them. I don't know. I've never met him. I know nothing about him. I know nothing about his history other than the two incidences that you brought up. I know nothing about him. What I will say is this, though. When you talk about, again, he was alluding to an article in Sports Illustrated where Tim Anderson, paying homage to Jackie Robinson, talked about wanting to be the next Jackie Robinson. I'm paraphrasing here. Again, so the negativity wasn't towards Jackie Robinson. It was towards Tim Anderson thinking he could be Jackie Robinson, according to Josh Donaldson. In the end, I think he was trying to egg him on. He was trying to rattle him. He was trying to get under his skin and get under his nerves or whatever. So you're absolutely right about what you say about Josh Donaldson. The only thing that I would caution is that Major League Baseball has now made a decision by invoking itself and implementing itself into the proceedings. You have now labeled Josh Donaldson essentially with the R word. You've labeled him a racist in some people's eyes with this one-game suspension because it will be synonymous with him for years to come.
He used racist comments. So you could put it that way, Stephen A. That we're not saying he's a racist, but he used racist commentary. And that's really
we're
what
not saying
LaRussa
it.
said.
We're not saying it. I'm saying to you how it's going to be interpreted by people who are not on First Take or other television shows. You're going to sit up there and look at the suspension, and you've labeled this guy that. And by doing that, that's fine. But it would have been better if the Yankees had suspended him or if Tim Anderson had went nuclear on him and called him out. For baseball to do it, okay, so what about when you don't do it next time? We're going to sit back and say, why? Why didn't you do something then? You did this to Josh Donaldson. What you going to do when this guy says something? What you going to do when that guy says something? Baseball did something dangerous because now we're going to look to them to be the quote-unquote racial police to some degree. Yeah. Are they up to it? I don't know if Major League Baseball is.
Yeah. Well, great to have you on this. I know how closely you follow this sport, and we had an excellent discussion yesterday with Doug Glanville. I implore everyone to check that out. That's available on ESPN.com. And I'll just say this to your sentiment about Jackie Robinson, the icon, the legend. First Take is going to broadcast live July 26th from the Jackie Robinson Museum, the unveiling in New York City. And God willing, we'll have a live audience for the first time in a couple years. And there's a reason why we're choosing that venue. Because this man's a pioneer, and you're right, what you said should never be associated with any type of criticism.
Absolutely not, and that's the problem. And that's the problem I have with it. And the Yankees, excuse me,
held
Stevie,
to the highest standard.
The Yankees are going to hold their nose with Donaldson because he's a player on their team, and they need him. So the Yankees don't like what Donaldson said, but they got to hold their nose. They're going to, they're going to quote unquote let MLB do the damage, do all the dirty work, and they're put up with it. That's what the Yankees have to do.
Yeah. All right, we'll leave it there. Still to come on First Take. Everyone out west, the Mavs avoid the sweep and are attempting to become the first team in NBA history to overcome a 3-0 deficit to win a series, a feat 146 others have failed to accomplish. Dallas took a step in that direction with a 119-109 win in Tuesday's Game 4 at the American Airlines Center. JJ Redick is here. Hello, sir. Good to have you. Many believe the Celtics and Warriors are on a collision course. I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself. And I'll ask you this, JJ, which team is more likely to win multiple titles moving forward? Is it Golden State or Boston?
Well, we've talked a lot about how the Warriors championship window here has been extended because of the development of Jordan Poole, hopefully the development of Kuminga, Moses Moody, James Wiseman when he comes back to play. So they still have a window here to win multiple championships. But when I look at the Eastern Conference, when I look at the Boston Celtics and the core of their group, Jason Tatum is 24, Jaylen Brown is 23, Marcus Smart is 28. Both the Williams, Robert Williams and Grant Williams, under 25, Peyton Pritchard, under 25. Their core group has an extended window here just because of their age. And this is a proven group. They've been to 3 conference finals in the last 5 years. Now, they haven't been able to get over the hump and get to the NBA Finals, but that bodes well for them. The other thing about the West, and I brought this up earlier this week, the other thing about the West is that how the Dallas Mavericks build around Luka, how the Memphis Grizzlies build around Ja, how the Denver Nuggets with a healthy roster look with Nikola Jokic. There's a lot of potential championship contenders in the West. In the East, you're looking at basically 2 guys who are in that prime age. It's Joel Embiid and Giannis, where the other guys, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, Kevin Durant, they're all on the other side of 30, just like the Warriors' main 3 guys. So I think based on a timeline of multiple championships, you got to go with the Boston Celtics here.
Well, first of all, I don't have to do anything. Secondly, I will remind you that you are sitting in that seat, J.J. Redick, that comes with a tremendous level of responsibility. Thirdly, I just want to know that to see you two together brings a tear to my eye. It's a beautiful view. It's a beautiful view, okay?
J.J. and I have talked,
okay?
Stephen A. We're fine.
There we go.
We have chatted.
Of course. I know, please. I know that. Here's the deal, guys. J.J. Redick, let me get on you right now. Have you lost your ever-loving mind? You see that? I mean, these are Warriors. Last time I checked, okay, Kuminga's 19, Moody's 19, Jordan Poole is 22, going on 23 years of age, and Clay and Steph are shooters. Now, J.J. Redick, you should appreciate that. Now, I know that you was running around. I mean, I know you had some injuries and stuff, and you lost just a step. Father Time kicked in a little bit for you. I get all of that, J.J. Redick. But that's because that's because you were running all over the damn place, okay? You were running all over the place. It was a little tougher in the league back then. Even you had to run through some pick. You was feeling some elbows, taking some shots. Shots that I dare say that the Stephs and Clays of the world in this softer version of professional basketball do not have to subject themselves to. I'm not saying the league is soft. I'm not disrespecting. I'm just talking about the league office. When I'm talking about the softness of the league, I'm talking about the league office, not the actual athletes who play them. I'm simply pointing out how you can't get away with the level of physicality, at least at one point in time in your career, you had to endure. So when I take all of that into consideration, and I look at Steph and Clay and the fact that I don't expect them to be anywhere anytime soon, and I see the emergence and the evolution of a Jordan Poole, and I fantasize about what Kuminga is going to be at age 19, and Moody's no scrub either. And I'm looking at some of these guys. I'm sorry, as much as I love the Boston Celtics, and as much as I believe that they're definitely they've got a championship in their future, a championship or 2 even. I'm not going to sit up there and say their chances at multiple championships are better than those snipers in the Bay Area. I'm not going that far, my brother, and I'm shocked that a sniper such as yourself would actually go against your own brotherhood. I think they should call you out, JJ. I think they should call you out.
Believe it or not, I would love to have fun with JJ and fight him. I can't. He's 1,000% right. Stephen A's lost.
What?
The Celtics have the young. He gave you the ages. I didn't even know what the ages were. JJ gave you the ages perfectly, Stephen A. You got Harden. You can't count on him. Butler is, as you said, old. The Bucks are good. I get it, but the Nets are a mess. You have New Orleans that's going to get Williamson back. JJ brought up Murray. Who knows on Kawhi and George? They're still sitting there with the Clippers. And Dallas is probably going to get somebody to help Doncic. And Curry and Thompson. Thompson's coming off 2 injuries. Is not quite as good. And Curry's, what is he, 32 years old? He's not going to go on forever. So JJ's listen, I'd love to fight him right
33.
now. But I love the 30,
I think he's 34.
34.
I
would love to fight. I can't.
33.
He's 100. Fight this guy in Miami. He's dead wrong to what he's talking about. Celtics have a much better chance to have a longer run of success than the Warriors do.
Stephen A., I want to respond to a couple things you said, and I think the point about Kuminga is really the key point here, because you brought up some guys like Jordan Poole. I talked about Moses Moody. I talked about James Wiseman, but Kuminga's development, that's, to me, is the key. Can he develop into a Kawhi-like player? Because that was really what extended the championship window for the San Antonio Spurs. Okay? The other point I want to point out, and again, I brought this up yesterday with you. When you get to this finals, and I think it will be the Warriors against whoever wins the East, when you get to this finals, you will see a level of physicality that the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics defense brings to Steph and Clay. And I hearken back to 2016, that finals appearance when they lost 3-1. Now, of course, some of that had to do with Draymond's injury, but their physicality on those two guys, that was a big difference in that series. Guys like J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, and one of the reasons they wanted Kevin Durant so bad, besides the fact that he's an amazing basketball player, was because they felt like they needed more shot creation. And I've said this about whatever the potential matchup is in the finals. I think whoever wins the East is going to give the Warriors a lot of problems, and it's going to be hard for them to score. So when we talk about an extension of this window, an extension of this championship window, you're going to need a guy like Jonathan Kuminga to develop into an all-star level player.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, first of all, you were correct. Steph Curry turned 34 in March. So you're right about that. He's 34 years of age. Clay's, I believe, is 31 or 32, or at least he's going on 32. But the other thing is you two, I mean, what the hell is going on here? Were you eating bagels and having breakfast together, and then you tried to collaborate against me? It's not going to work, damn it. It's not going to work, okay? Here's the deal, J.J. Redick. This is the thing that's perhaps even more blasphemous about what you're saying than the fact that you turned against your shooting brothers. I mean, the brothers that are snipers. You turned against them, and you were a sniper yourself. You went against your own brother.
Turn against them. I said they're capable of winning multiple championships. We're talking about an extended timeline, Stephen A. And age matters. Are we going to be literal? Are we going to be literal? I'm not being literal, okay? I'm going to mess with J.J. Redick every chance I get, all right? Damn it. I'm going to paraphrase in the way I want to paraphrase. I said you're getting on them, okay? Number three, what conference is Giannis Antetokounmpo in? What conference is he in? So when you talk about the possibility of the Boston Celtics winning a championship, who they gonna have to go through, J.J. Redick? I think that brother. I brought him up, though. Stephen A., I brought him up. I said the two guys in the East that are still in their primes are Giannis, who has proven he can be a champion, and Joel Embiid. Those are the two guys, when you look at the best players in the East.
Oh, my God.
In their prime.
Oh, my God.
Prime age. Prime age. I'm not saying the other guys aren't still in their prime. Prime age.
I'm getting ready to have a heart attack. Did you not bring up Kevin Durant? You didn't bring him up, Peter? Let me tell you something right now. Boston's got some obstacles. Now. So all I'm trying to say,
are you not listening to me, Stephen A?
Are you selective listening?
Are you selective listening right now? I'm being serious. Are you selective listening? I said Kevin Durant. I said Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, all those guys in the East. On the other side of 30. We're talking about multiple championships. You know what's required to win multiple championships? Years. You know who has a lot of years left in them? The Boston Celtics.
JJ, this is First Take. Of course I'm selectively listening. Of course I am. I'm not denying it. Of course I'm selectively listening, okay? That's what I do. And my point to you is this. I know you brought those guys up. I'm simply saying that you're dismissing them. I'm not saying you didn't bring them up. I'm saying ultimately you see the Celtics, and I'm saying Celtics might not be here right now if Middleton was healthy with Giannis. So I'm looking at the Golden State Warriors, and what they're doing, I see them continuing to do. Even more so when those younger players develop, because the older guys ain't going anywhere. Whereas in Boston, you got some huge obstacles. Boston, the Celtics can win it this year. They better, because it's going to be the road's going to be tougher in the near future. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
I think the Western Conference is going to be much tougher than the East, based on what JJ said with age. Plus, you're bringing back Murray, Zion,
a lot of injuries,
Kawhi, and bringing back a lot of good players.
Absolutely.
So I think it's much harder.
What the hell is going on?
Speaking of the word
is going on in this world?
Dismissive.
JJ Redick agreeing with one another. What the hell is this world?
Look at that. JJ and I, brothers. Yes,
sir. Is that what I just heard? Okay.
JJ, I'm going to get you back on your own podcast. I'm going to get Doggy back on his show today, and I'm coming on your podcast, JJ, and I'm taking over. I'm taking over JJ Redick's podcast just because of this segment.
Is he really going on your podcast today?
Yeah, he's coming on the show in the next couple of weeks. We're just trying to figure out. He just keeps going to Miami. That's the issue right now. I can't nail him down in New York.
Can you blame him? That water does look very beautiful.
Flying back to South Beach.
All right.
It ain't the East River. It ain't the East River behind you. I assure you of that.
Yes, indeed.
All right, listen, it's beautiful out here. Okay, yeah, we talked about people being dismissed. Some saying Joel Embiid was. So the All-NBA team was announced last night, and for the second straight season, Joel Embiid finished top 2 for MVP, but failed to make first-team All-NBA. No one else has done that even once over the last 25 years. Prior to Embiid, the last player to do this was Shaq in 1994-1995, Christopher Mad Dog Russo. Did Embiid get snubbed?
No, not at all. First off, I hate the games thing. Can the first-team guys play 80 games? I mean, Doncic played 64 games.
Yeah.
I mean, Giannis played 67 games, played 82 games.
Yeah.
And they're missing 15% of the season. That bothers me, but that's a different argument. No way. That's what's fun about all NBA teams or about all-star teams. Fighting the position, have fun with JJ. Will and Russell were not on the same NBA first team. They played the same position, so you had to pick one or the other who had the better year. So I have no problem whatsoever in keeping. Listen, we all know Embiid's great, but he's going against Jokic, who obviously won the MVP. So you're going to pick him as that's not an insult to Embiid. If you're going to make it so easy for the voters, just take the 5 best players regardless of position. You can't do that. You got 2 centers here. You got to pick one for the All-NBA. They pick Jokic. I don't understand what the big deal is. All right, Embiid got hurt, so what? We'll live. It's not the end of the world. We all know how great he's making $100 million. We'll live. But I don't have a problem with it. That's what it is for the voters. You take the 2 guards, you take the 2 most of the time. 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center. Jokic made it over Embiid.
Jokic played 74 games.
I know, which I don't love either. That's a little better. He played the most out of all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Giannis played 67 games. Jokic played 64 games. He missed 18 games of the season. Do the math. That's about 17, 18% of the year. That's a lot of games to miss to be all NBA first team. That's my take.
Couple of things. Number one, I want to say this before we even move on to me responding to that gibberish Mad Dog just threw out there. Let me just say we were talking about basketball and I used the word sniper. That's inappropriate on a day like today, so I apologize for that. That was insensitive on my part. I just got excited talking about basketball. That's my mistake, so I own that. I apologize for that. Secondly, let me get back to you, Doggy, with what you're saying. I have a vote. And in the voting, they tell me that I can vote for the front court players. They told me I didn't have to choose between Jokic and Embiid. I could actually pick both. And so guess what I did? I voted for them both as first team. Did Joel Embiid get snubbed as a first team All-NBA? Yes, he did. I believe with what he had to endure this year, with the nonsense that Ben Simmons created, with all of that stuff going on in Philadelphia, and then ultimately James Harden coming into the squad at the expense of Simmons and Seth Curry and Andre Drummond and 2 first-round picks, and all the stuff that he had to go through, still playing the way that he played, still having the Philadelphia 76ers be the threat that they were, we don't know what would have happened in the Miami series. Had Joel Embiid not hurt his thumb, A, and B, cracked a bone in his face that ultimately forced him to miss the first 2 games of that series against the Miami Heat. Who knows what would have happened? Because we saw what kind of impact he had the next 2 games that he showed up. So let's take that into consideration as well. I voted for him as my league MVP. I had an issue with him getting blown out by Brooklyn and James and Kyrie and Kevin Durant's visit there after the James Harden trade, okay? And I had an issue with him losing a close, hard-fought game against Jokic and the Denver Nuggets in Philadelphia, although he had better numbers that game. But I think in totality, when you look at what he put forth throughout the season, I believe if there was ever a day to make an exception about 2 big boys being on the first team together, it would be this one. I think Jokic and Embiid should have been first team, JJ, at the expense of Jason Tatum, who should have been second team All-NBA.
The irony of Joel Embiid having more votes, more first-team votes than Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum getting in as the first-team guy, when last year Jason Tatum's votes were split between guard and forward, and he had more total votes and points, I should say, than Kyrie Irving. But because his votes were split, Kyrie Irving got third-team All-Guard. That cost Jason Tatum somewhere between $30 and $35 million. So it's a little ironic, all right? What needs to the voting system is terrible. And the idea, by the way, that you could split guys based on position, ultimately we've seen it twice in the last year where two guys got screwed because of that voting system. Let's make it very easy. Let's just yes, Klay Thompson. Let's make it very easy. Let's just vote for the 15 best players. The 5 guys who get the most points are on the first team, then the second team, then the third team. Let's make it very easy. And by the way, we don't need to have a third team center. We don't need to have a third team center. Why? There's so many good wings and so many good guards. And I'm sorry, like there's years where you're literally going, I got to put this guy third team. I got to put this guy third team.
Yes.
On the games played, Chris, by the way, I think there's generally speaking, there's like a cutoff. And I don't know. It's sometimes it's 65 games, sometimes it's 68 games. You know, I look at that third team. The fact that the Miami Heat were the first team, first seed in the Eastern Conference, and they had no representation on the All-NBA team. Jimmy Butler had a great regular season. He's been even better in the playoffs. He didn't make the third team because he only played in 57 games. Now, Pascal Siakam was well-deserving. That's not a knock on Pascal Siakam. Had Jimmy Butler played 70 games, 71 games, he probably ends up in that third team slot. So I do think they take into account the games played. There's no guideline, though, for is the cutoff 62? Like, I agree. There needs to be a number. Like, to be All-NBA, you got to play 62 games, 64 games, whatever it may be. So there's some clarity there. I think I talked to enough. Stephen, I know you have a vote. I don't have a vote. I've talked to enough voters. And the criteria on all this stuff is so up in the air. There needs to be some guidance from the league office on MVP, on most improved player. What is the criteria for most improved player and on the All-NBA stuff, especially because we negotiated to have the clause for the Supermax kick in if in that fourth year you make All-NBA. With that much money on the line, there has to be better guidelines and guidance from the league office.
JJ, just so you know my position. First of all, I completely agree with everything that you said. You're right on the money. You get no disagreement from me, and I love the top 15 players and just call it a day. And I abhor the fact that making that All-NBA team, first, second, or third team, could ultimately determine whether or not it cost you $30 to $40 million. I'm one of those guys, JJ, just so you know, Mad Dog, as well. I wouldn't blame Klay Thompson if he never spoke to the media again. That year that he was held out of being on an All-NBA team, and he lost out, and they put Kemba Walker, who was having a sensational season in Charlotte, no doubt. I voted for Klay Thompson, of course, but we've cost that man $30 million at least. We're talking about a 3-time champion, one of the top 5 shooters in the history of basketball, who went to 5 straight NBA finals. And in the throes of all of that, we voted against him and cost him over $30 million. If ever there was a person that should have disdain for the media, it is that guy. No excuse for it. So I completely agree with Jay.
I just want to add one thing, Stephen A., and I just want to add, you know who had a great day yesterday? Trae Young. Because he made the third team, he gets that $30 to $35 million bonus.
And just to reiterate, all the NBA first team, all 27 years old or younger for the first time since the 1950s. And I just want to say again quickly, Stephen A., you mentioned it off the top. JJ and I also had a poor word choice there, and it was in a sports context. And we never, ever want to be insensitive to the tragedies that have happened. So I just want to be clear on that, and we'll be much better moving forward. All right, we'll leave it there. Still to come, his investigation of Deshaun Watson is nearing the end. That according to Commissioner Roger Goodell, who spoke at the league's spring meeting in Atlanta. Watson is facing 22 civil lawsuits from women who have accused him of inappropriate sexual conduct during massage sessions. 2 grand juries in Texas have declined to pursue criminal charges, and Watson has denied all wrongdoing. But that doesn't mean that the league still won't levy their own punishment. Here's an account from Ashley Solis on HBO last night. Solis is one of the women who has accused Watson. Take a listen.
He ends up exposing himself, and I hurried up and covered him with the towel, and he said, "Oh, you don't have to worry about the towel." And I said, "Yes, I do."
So then what happened?
he requested that I work on his abdomen. But the moment I went above his navel, he told me he didn't want me to work there. He wanted me to work lower. He just kept directing me to go lower and don't be scared. You can go in there, like. And I just started really freezing up at this point.
Can you explain that?
Like a wave just took over my body. I felt so hot. I was sweating. It was getting more and more clear that this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I thought the session was going to be.
So Lise had this to say about the Browns giving Deshaun Watson an NFL record $230 million guaranteed contract after trading for him. It's just like a big screw you. That's what it feels like, that we don't care. He can run and throw, and that's what we care about. Leah Graham, one of Watson's attorneys, told HBO that Watson has no regrets because he did nothing wrong. Stephen A., how do you think the NFL appears right now?
They're in a dicey situation, and it's all their fault. And let me explain. First, let's get out what we know, okay? What we know is that at least 22 different women have accused Deshaun Watson, at the very least, of inappropriate behavior. You got all, sexual assault, all of these different things, okay? He's been accused. What we know is that he will face no criminal charges, no jail time. That the civil suits will keep coming, at least most of them. That they proclaim he is guilty of the accusations that have been levied against him. Deshaun Watson has claimed adamantly that he is completely innocent of all 22 charges against him. All of them. It's what he says. It's what his representatives say. That's what we know. Here's what we also know. The NFL had better watch itself. See, what we're dealing with right now is this. The National Football League, and I don't want to use the words loosely, Doggy or Molly, dragging their feet, because there is an investigation that is ongoing and ultimately some ruling is going to go down. And what I'm trying to say to the National Football League, what exactly are you trying to accomplish? Because the court of law hasn't established guilt or innocence. There are civil cases coming. I guess from a monetary perspective, they're going to establish what is guilt or what is innocence, and we'll go from there. What are you trying to establish if you are the National Football League? There should only be one thing, and the one thing should be you have impugned the integrity of the league by even having yourself involved in a situation like this. The headlines, you've been paraded all over the headlines because of this. We can't prove innocence or guilt. But you're a player representing our league. You don't just represent Deshaun Watson. You don't just represent the Houston Texans or now the Cleveland Browns. You represent us. And by finding yourself in this situation, this is our punishment. That should be it. There should be nothing else. Because if you're looking for something else, you're now trying to do the job of law enforcement. And I didn't know that the NFL nor any sports league were qualified to do that. When did they get that? When did they get those qualifications? Because you got off-duty police officers, FBI agents, private investigators. Why? What qualifies you to do what our law enforcement and our justice system is supposed to be doing? The fact that the NFL wants to continue to investigate this matter implies you're trying to establish guilt or innocence. That is not the job of a sports league. That is the job of our justice system. So all the NFL should be doing is, this is our league. We don't know anything. But the fact that you have impugned the shield by involving yourself with this, and because of that, we will punish you. Anything further implies they know things we don't. And if you know it, and you're coming down with the ruling, that then gives us the right to know. Do you really want to be in that position if you are a sports league? I say no. That's where I'm at with it, doggy.
Yeah, 100%. I watched last night. Those two girls that the HBO had were tremendous, very convincing, crying on set and everything else. They brought the defense attorney, one of them for Watson, on at late, 11th hour. They wanted to come on and have their opinion thought, and when they try to discredit 3 or 4 of the 22, here's the bottom line. We all know Watson did something wrong, okay? Court of public opinion, you'd be lost if you didn't think Watson did something wrong. Incredibly inappropriate behavior. That girl crying her eyes out when she'd make this stuff up. 22 of them made them up. You want to disparage 3, 4 of them that they reached out to Watson after this alleged scenario? All right, go ahead. Not 22, okay? 22. It's not 2 people. It's 22. And the Browns deserve a lot of grief here. Haslam, that owner who's got issues with his tire company, he never did it. You know, he never even talked to any of these women. He never talked to their representation. All he wants is a quarterback. I understand Baker Mayfield hasn't won. I also understand that the Browns haven't been to a Super Bowl and they haven't done anything since 1964 when they beat the Colts. I get that, 34-0. I get all that. But the Browns should sit there and say, geez, do we want this guy representing our organization? And let's at least do an investigation that is somewhat legitimate before we go out there and give the guy $235 million. And they did not do that. That was apparent last night. The Browns can say anything they want. They did not do that. And Steve is 100% right. What is Goodell waiting for? What are you waiting for, Raj? Right, we talked to Watson. What do you mean? He embarrassed your league. There's something to this. All right? You want to give him he should be sitting there. He shouldn't be in training camp. The Browns knew that something was cooking here. They only gave him $1 million for this year's contract because they want to save him the money. The NFL should say, hold on, you can't circumvent the cap that way. That's nonsense. We're suspended for 2 years. Watson should not be playing a large part of next year. I'll let everybody else decide what the suspension should be. But if anybody saw that last night, or if anybody who has seen this develop over the last 10, 12 months, whatever it might be, read the newspaper stories, Sports Illustrated did a big thing about it, watch what we saw last night, everybody knows that Watson did something that was terrible.
Something.
He did something. And he should be punished for that. And I don't know what Goodell's waiting for. Raj, nobody cares about the Pro Bowl, all right? Well, we're going to freaking think about the Pro Bowl. Nobody's interested, all right? You got a big quarterback for the Browns who's going to be in training camp in a few weeks, whatever the case may be. He should not be allowed to be there. That's what you should do. Listen, and you're sitting on your rear end.
Can I just say one thing, Stephen? And it doesn't feel like he was punished. It feels like he was awarded. And this is where my mind goes as a woman, is I don't want this to deter other women dealing with sexual misconduct, domestic violence, abuse, to be afraid to speak out now because they feel that they won't be protected, they won't be believed, they won't be threatened. You're valued and you should be respected everywhere you go. You should be respected in your home. You should be respected in your workplace. You are not a second-class citizen and your voice matters. And I just applaud Kayla Hayes, I think that was her name, and Ashley Solis for coming forward in front of the camera and standing up for all those women. And that's just my fear here. So I just want any woman at home dealing with any of these situations, please come forward. There are people that believe you and there are people that care. I promise you. Don't let this deter you.
Let me say this. They were incredibly brave. And like I use the phrase on many occasions, doggy, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it ain't a mongoose, meaning that where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something everywhere. You got 22 different women accusing you of something. You got a problem. Ain't no damn way around that. We know that. But the question was, how does the NFL look? That was the question. And so what I'm saying is that in the United States of America, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. We know that's not applicable. We know that's not the real world because that's as it applies to the justice system, not as it applies to the court of the public opinion. So the public feels one way about Deshaun Watson based on these allegations. The court system has said something else. Now we get down to the nitty-gritty. What position should a sports league have? Because what we have is a situation where you have folks looking for corporations, for conglomerates, for people in positions of power to make decisions that the justice system either couldn't or would it? So now that we have to ask ourselves that question about the National Football League, where does the trepidation comes in? I'll tell you where. There's nobody that's going to trust a league to do the right things when it comes to the people that represent their brand. Because if it compromises the brand, how can you trust them? If you sit up there and just say, hey, the hell with the justice system, you know what, Deshaun Watson, you found yourself with these allegations, and guess what? We believe you're guilty. Well, then you're going to have people asking, okay, did you do that with, you did that with Deshaun? Would you do that with somebody else? You're going to have people bringing up all of these questions. Nobody trusts the leagues. And so the league has an obligation to know that and stick to what they know. I don't have to worry about the public trusting me if all I honor is my shield, meaning this is the NFL. You do something to impugn our name and our integrity of this shield. This is what's coming down the pike. We don't give a damn what the justice system says. We're coming for you because this is our league. You do that, you can be trusted. When you hold off because of investigations that last 10 months, 12 months, 18 months, where you got us looking at you saying, what the hell is going on? What's the confusion about? Why won't you make a decision? That's where the NFL is right now, and that is not a good look.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, Steve, real quick. How does Major League Baseball look? Bauer, 2 years suspension, no pay. Same deal. No criminal conviction, no judge, no the Pasadena Police Department. They found they didn't do anything. And what did Manfred do? Everybody likes to kill Manfred. What did Manfred do? 2 years. Right. 2 years.
But there were
2 years.
Right. But it wasn't in his case. It wasn't just allegations. He went through the system, and we heard all the gory details of what he had done. That's why Manfred could make that decision, and nobody looks at Manfred with a raised eyebrow. Because you got Major League Baseball players that were appalled by the information they heard that came out in court.
Yeah. Again, I'll just wrap it by saying this: 22 civil lawsuits. And Deshaun Watson received $230 million guaranteed, the most ever. Ashley Solis described it as a slap in the face. Still to come on First Take. We barely got to see Kyler all postseason after losing in the first round, and now we're not seeing him at OTAs. Why someone on this set has a big problem today, fellas. That's why it's First Take. Some football. Kyler Murray won't be attending the Cardinals' voluntary OTAs this week, according to our Adam Schefter. The young quarterback still waiting for a contract extension after putting out that public statement in February. Sources say all is quiet on that front, at least for now. Christopher Russo, is Kyler skipping OTAs? Is that a big deal to you?
Yes, it is. He played horrifically down the stretch last year. He took himself out of that playoff game against the Rams when he was awful, mind-bogglingly bad. There's a reputation that maybe he is not beloved by his teammates. And if you're Kyler Murray, who's moaning and groaning about how much money you want to make, how about showing up at OTAs and putting last year's conclusion of the season behind you and, looking at it as a clean slate deal and doing your thing? Because he's always moaning and groaning about his money. Nobody wants to hear it. He hasn't earned that yet. He hasn't earned it. This is a guy that is 0-1 in the postseason, albeit he got hurt a couple years ago. I got a little break on that. Last year down the stretch, he was beyond bad. And now we got Kyler Murray here, who's going to be hard to get for Arizona. Pay me or I'm going to get annoyed at you. Pipe down. When you play that poorly for that long as you did at the end of the season, and again, take yourself out of a wild card game, which you were beyond bad. And then your answer to that is, well, I want my money, and if I'm not going to get my money, I'm not going to show up at OTAs. That is indefensible stuff. So if I was Arizona, I'd make him sing for his supper. I would never pay him until he goes out there this year and puts last year behind him. It gives us a playoff win, plays great football. I have major problems with Murray. I used to like Murray an awful lot. I'm not sure how good he is right now. So if I was owning that ball club, I was the general manager, I'd say, hey, you're not getting your money. You're not getting your money. You'll get your money if you prove it.
Enough.
You're not getting your money. it's not enough.
First of all, you don't tell me what's enough and what's not enough when you're wearing my blazer, okay? You put on my blazer, you're trying to get a duplicate of my blazer. It didn't work. That's number one. Number two, you know what? If this was Christmas, I'd call you the Grinch. I swear to you, and I usually embrace that title myself. But I don't know about you today, doggy. I just don't know about you. First, you're singing Kumbaya with J.J. Redick back there while you're eating your bagels. And now here you are on TV going off about Kyler Murray. I'm sorry. Did you have a problem with Cliff Kingsbury getting his extension? Because that's where I'm going. If this man deserves an extension, why doesn't Kyler Murray? Excuse me, he was brought there specifically to nurture and help Kyler Murray grow. He's the quarterback guru. He's the one that ingratiated himself with these young quarterbacks and established himself as that, right? What did Cliff Kingsbury do to get a NFL head coaching job? Not a damn thing. When he was at Texas Tech, he didn't win anything. Okay, he was out of the postseason 4 years out of the 6, but he got a head coaching job. He bypassed a whole bunch of dudes, blacks, whites, Hispanics, everybody. He bypassed a whole bunch of people. Didn't do anything to deserve a head coaching job in the NFL. Not only does he get a job, but he gets an extension. But when it's time for Kyler Murray to get his money, his bag, we gonna sit up here and say, oh, no, I don't want to hear it. Don't tell me about the money. The hell with that. Have you seen Kyler Murray's crib? No, you haven't. Have you seen the car he drives? No. But we've seen Cliff Kingsbury. You see that fabulous pad that man was rocking during the NFL draft last year. Remember that, doggy? When everybody home with COVID and we just lamenting the state of affairs that's going on in this world. You looked at his crib. Guess what? He didn't have to go outside. His house was practically outside. It probably had a mower, a retractable roof or something on it, for crying out loud. He's living large. But the quarterback who's helped improve the team every year with his questionable coaching, to say the least, is supposed to be robbed of the opportunity to get his bag, but the person that he helps ends up getting paid and he doesn't? Come on, doggy. You can't be like that. If he doesn't get paid, Kingsbury should have got paid. But since Kingsbury got paid, he should get paid.
Two wrongs don't make a right. You're right. He's not Weeb Eubank. There's no way they should have given him that extension. You're 1,000% correct. No argument. But Murray doesn't deserve this. He hasn't earned it.
All right, Stephen A., if you lived in Arizona, you'd have a palace too, okay? I just want to let you know it's a little different than LA and New York. So I want to put that out there. Real estate's a little different there. Okay, but you're in Miami, Stephen A. Yes, it. You know, Stevie, it's good for your spirit. It's good for your spirit that you get a little sun before you get out there for countdown. All right, I get to stay focused. Game 5 tonight, 8:30 Eastern on ESPN. Series tied 2-2. Christopher Mad Dog Russo, how much does home court advantage matter for this Miami Heat?
Doesn't matter at all. Remember, don't forget Game 6 against San Antonio about 6-7 years ago. Late in the game, those fans bouncing out, getting out of there because they were losing. Yeah. Rats off a sinking ship. That is the absolute worst sports town in America. I have no problem saying it. The only thing somebody care about are the Dolphins. The Marlins have never done a thing. There's 17,000 fans who care about the Florida Panthers. There is not a lot of juice for the Heat. That is not an intimidating pit. San Francisco with the Warriors, that's a home court advantage. This is not. Stephen A. can talk about, and I love the city too. You have Biscayne. I like that hotel there on Biscayne Boulevard. I love Cranston Park. I love South Beach. I love it. Palm trees. I'd go there in a minute. But as far as sports and passion and sold-out arenas with life, with some juice, not a chance. It's one of the worst home court arenas in the NBA. How's that?
Well, what I would say to you, doggy, is you need to get out here a little bit more. I mean, I would tell you, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, listen, the Miami Heat were 29-12 at home this year. I mean, that's important to point out. Okay, their players play better when they're here. I don't know why. They seem inspired. I would ask that they even got a club in the arena, Joggy. I mean, a lot of times you don't see the fans there. They in the club. Now they come in the second half when it really, really counts. All I can tell you, doggy, is I understand the rah-rah, the fans and the screaming and the noise, and I get it. I understand, doggy. But it's a different flavor in Miami. And I would tell you that, There are worse places to be.
I'm
How
not
about
gonna lie.
He's right about
I'm
that.
jealous, Stephen A. It's one of my favorites ever. I've been going to get some sun and some Cuban food right now. We gotta go
check
to
this
break.
out, Molly. Check this out, Molly. Doggy, Miami's so fly. You'd get a tan being inside.
I love you. You're
We'll be right
awesome.
back. This is First Take. We'll be right back. That's all I have to say.